Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here, again with another installment of my complete analysis of all of Bach's chorale harmonizations. Today we're looking at Ich dank dir, liebe Herr, which translates to I thank thee, Savior, dearest. All in all, this is a pretty interesting chorale, if for any reason the fact that we have pretty much a melody that stays in the key of A major the whole time, except for this brief redirection to B minor here in the second system. But all in all, Bach sort of forces this E major perspective on an A major melody, so he's doing some tonal magic here to try and force the harmony into a direction that the melody doesn't quite imply intuitively. But that being said, we have 3 sharps in the key signature. We start on what I think is a D major in first inversion, or an F sharp minor, whatever you look at it as, and we end on A major. So even though the first cadence we have is a perfect authentic cadence in the key of E major, this is a chorale in the key of A major for sure. That's the tonic key. And even though I'm calling this a 4-6 chord because I think it's more likely for a chorale to start on a 4 than a 6, and also for 4-6 to go to a tonic triad, more so than 6 going to a tonic triad, really the difference between the 2 chords is pretty minor. We then have C sharp, A, E, and A. That's a tonic triad in first inversion, passing tone in the tenor. We then have A, C sharp, E, and A. That's a root position tonic triad. Then we have like a rising chromatic bass line here, which is kind of interesting. We have D natural, F sharp, and A, which is a root position 4 chord. So we almost have kind of like a fragment in D major here, the only difference being any G sharps that we would see, which we don't. So this is kind of interesting that the beginning is almost like a little D major fragment. But then we have D sharp, we have a passing 7th in the tenor as well. D sharp, B, F sharp, and B, which is B major over D sharp, which is 5-6 of 5 in the key of A major. And I think this is our modulation point. Always feels kind of wonky to me when we modulate via a secondary dominant, but with the chord that comes after it, it's kind of hard because we're forced into a very small period of time. So really, I think the modulation can happen anywhere in the zone. And with ascending chromatic bass, it doesn't have to be ascending, but with chromatic bass lines that are stepwise, it's kind of hard to tell because sometimes the harmonies aren't the most normative or the most traditionally functional. But afterwards we get a very interesting chord. We get G natural, E, B, E, and G natural, which is a minor tonic triad in the key of E major, but we cadence on a major quality triad, so we have a cross relation here of G and G sharp. We then have B, A, D sharp, and F, which is a 5-7 chord, which is B7, little neighbor tone there in the tenor as well. And then of course we cadence on E major, which is our tonic. Okay, next cadence, we have another perfect authentic cadence in the key of E major. So we'll just keep analyzing in the key. We have E, E, G sharp, and B going to A. This really feels like we've kind of gone back to A and then we revisit the idea of E. But because D sharp just happens so quickly after the E to A, I really have no problem just calling this 1-4. We then have E, E, G sharp, and B. That's another tonic triad with a passing 7th in the tenor again. F sharp, C sharp, C sharp, and A. That's a root position 2 chord, F sharp minor. And then we have D sharp here and B as well, which we could say F sharp, B, D sharp, and A, which is kind of like a passing 5-4-3 chord, B7 over F sharp, which is where 2 wants to go to before we go to another tonic anyways. So that's good that that's what's happening right now. So we have E, B, E, and G sharp. That's our tonic triad and root position. Some more passing tones in the lower voices. A passing tone in the bass and 2 neighbor tones, 1 in the tenor and 1 in the melody. We then have B, B, E, and G sharp, which is a tonic triad in... this should be first inversion. So we have a tonic triad in second inversion here. Pardon me. And then we have B, A, D sharp, and F sharp, which is a B7 chord in root position. Another one of these little neighbor tones that we had in the previous phrase. And then we have a cadence on E major. So we have a instance of a cadential 6-4 here going on. That's cool. All right, we have another perfect authentic cadence in the key of E major here. This is becoming a theme of sorts. Here we have something interesting. We have D natural in the bass, but an E major triad above it. So it's E7 over D, which would be 5/4/2 of 4, because A is our 4. And it kind of does the same thing that happens after this phrase, except for instead of having E in the bass, we have D in the bass. So really, maybe he really is trying to tonicize A with this E major chord. And really, one does want to go to 4 via the cycle of falling fifths. But this way he does it a little bit more deliberately. And then we have G natural and D natural here, which this G natural after an A major triad and some first inversion, by the way, would imply kind of like a 5/4, but we don't ever get that entirely because the G natural kind of interrupts it. And the chord we get afterwards is kind of interesting. We get some mode mixture going on. We have C natural, F sharp, E, and A, which is an F sharp minor 7 flat 5 over C, which is 2/4/3, neighboring 7th in the tenor. And then we have B, F sharp, D sharp, and A, which is our root position dominant 7 chord, passing tone in the bass. We then have D sharp, F sharp, and B. That's another B major sonority, but we don't have a 7th in this chord, so we're just going to change the figured bass to a 6. We then have E, G sharp, B, and G sharp, which is a root position tonic triad, E major. A little bit of a delayed passing tone here. We leap up to the tonic. We have B, B, and F, or B, B, and F sharp. This E is a 4/3 suspension over the bass, but the resolution happens with an A in it and a D sharp, so it's actually a 5/7 chord. We've seen a lot of 5/7 chords. Not a lot of. We've only seen one 5 chord without the 7th. All the 5 chords we've seen so far have had 7ths in either the resolution or just on the downbeat, which is unusual for Bach. But not like unprecedented or anything, but it's relatively unusual. And then of course we cadence on our tonic. Alright, so we're seeing a theme here where each of these phrases ends on E, and it's a perfect authentic cadence, and that goes immediately to A major, as we're seeing here again, A, E, and C sharp, which is a tonic, it's not a tonic triad, it's our 4 chord, because we're staying in the key of E major. This is another perfect authentic cadence in the key of E major. But don't worry, it'll change once we get to the second system. So here we have G natural, G, B, oh no, sorry, not G natural. G sharp is in the key signature. G sharp, B, E, and B, which is a tonic triad, E major in first inversion. A, C sharp, E, and A. We see this oscillation between 1 and 4 and 1 a lot. But this is a 4 chord in first inversion, right? Because it's over C sharp, passing tone in the bass. And notice how when we link a 4/6 chord to a tonic triad, which we have on the next beat, E major, he always incorporates the leading tones somehow. This is something I've noticed. 4/6 going to 1. Sometimes we get a full passing 7 chord in one of the voices. In addition to the D sharp, we get an F sharp somewhere. But because we don't really have a voice where F sharp would be a smooth passing connection, because of the way that the chord afterwards is voiced, we get the leading tone. So there's kind of like an implied 7th going on that links the 4/6 to the 1. Okay, and then we have some more non-chord tones going on here, D sharps and F sharps, which are kind of like implying 7, but because we have an E in the bass, it doesn't really spell a complete chord. Then we have A, E, C sharp, and G sharp, which is A major 7 in root position. That's just a 4/7 chord. We have B, B, D sharp, and F. That's a root position B major triad. That's a 5 chord. E, G sharp, B, and E, our tonic triad. So 4 perfect authentic cadences in the key of E, all of which have their own sort of character. It's interesting that all of these phrases are very similar in terms of their endings. It's G sharp, F sharp, E, G sharp, F sharp, E, G sharp, F sharp, E. But we have G natural, F sharp, E here, which is kind of interesting. Okay, moving ahead, we have another E major, but notice how we have B in the melody now as opposed to E natural, which is what we've had in the 4 previous phrases. I think this is a half cadence. I think a hallmark of the half cadence is that when we see the 5 of the chord in the melody, it's not always the case, but it's often the case, where we have the B of the E major triad in the melody. It's a stark contrast to what we saw before, because this B, despite it not technically being a tendency tone, it tends to outline, it tends to have a melodic tendency to want to go down to A rather than to go up to E. When we're talking in terms of this really weird riding the line of E major and A major, if you listen to the melody by itself, it sounds a lot like A major, but when you contextualize it with the harmony, it tips it over to the E major side. So I think this E major triad that we get, this E major triad that we have on the cadence, I think is where we allied with A, and it's now our 5 chord. We then have C sharp, G, and E, which is interesting because we're expecting a tonic triad afterwards, but we get a deceptive progression. Yeah, I think this is right because we get a D natural immediately afterwards in the melody, and that just overrides the impact of E major being the primary tonic. We have F sharp, A, F sharp, and D, which is a D major triad in first inversion. Then we have G sharp and B passing tones. This is what I'm talking about, a 4/6 chord linking to a tonic triad, A, C sharp, E, and C sharp. We usually get a passing 7 chord of some sorts, and this is a minor 7 flat 5, G sharp and F sharp. That's a minor 7th. So yeah, we usually get a linked some type of implied 7th, bare minimum. The voice that it would be the bass when it goes from 6 to 1. We usually get a passing 7 chord there. Alright, then we get some more passing tones in the upper voices. We have A, F sharp, and C, or A, D, F sharp, and C, which is kind of like a passing 4 chord, but I don't think that really implies too much to the texture. Sorry, I keep rotating the music. We have E, G sharp, and B, which is a root position E major chord. That's our 5, passing 7th in the bass. We then have C, E, or C sharp, E, A, and A. You'd be tempted to call this 1, but I think this G natural is implying the fact that this is actually 1/6, because we have C sharp in the bass, 5/6 of 4, because the G implies that the tonic is no longer functioning as a tonic, it's functioning as a dominant, and I'll hedge my bets that this A major triad, even though it's coming after a 5 chord, this A major triad's actually going to go to D, which is our 4, D, D, F sharp, and A, which is a 4 chord. And notice how we get the 4, or the 6 of the scale, F sharp, linking via the leading tone here. So we have G sharp and B, D, and D. So this is like a 7/6/4 chord passing, like so. It's 4 going to 7/6/4, and then we go to A major. So we see these combinations of where we see a voice link from the 6th scale degree to the tonic. It's something that I see very regularly in Bach's music, so it's kind of cool that he's thinking even by subdividing the harmonic rhythm and still thinking about function. Of course, this isn't always the case, but he does it often. And then we cadence on 5. The fact that this is the first cadence that we have on E major that isn't preceded by a B major sonority is important. Okay, next we have a cadence, a perfect authentic cadence in the key of, so weird where that little droplet come from, a B minor cadence. So I think we're looking for a point in which we modulate, and I think because we see A sharp here so far afterwards, we're modulating in this area. So we have C sharp, E, A sharp, and C, which is A sharp diminished over C sharp. That's 7/6 of 2. And of course that does go to 2, B, F sharp, B, and D. And I think this is where we modulate. Tonic triad now in the key of B minor. We then have C sharp, E, A sharp, and C, another 7/6 chord. Now it's not a secondary dominant because we have modulated. And then we have D, F sharp, B, and B. First inversion tonic triad, which is B minor. Some passing tones going on in the lower voices. And then we have F sharp, F sharp, C sharp, F sharp, and A sharp, which is our root position, F sharp major triad, which is our dominant. And then we cadence on B minor, which is our tonic. And we're looking for a point in which we modulate back to the key of A major, because this is another half cadence in the key of A major. Notice how we're cadencing on E major, but we have the B in the melody, which is usually, like I said, a hallmark of a half cadence in Bach's music. I don't think that's always the case, but it certainly is the case often in his music based on what I've found. But I think this is our common chord. We're now, B minor is now our supertonic in the key of A. We then go C sharp, G sharp, E, and E, which is a root position C sharp minor chord. So we're seeing some adjacent harmony here, not quite parallel because of the way it's spelled. But we would expect the tonic triad. No, we would expect the dominant triad afterwards, but we get C sharp in the bass. We have the makings of an E major triad, but the C sharp in the bass is what throws us for a loop, and that deceives us. So that, however, does go to where we expect it to, F sharp, C sharp, and A. Sorry, which is an F sharp minor chord, 3 going to 6, which is where we expect. Then we have E, G sharp, E, and B, which is our root position E major chord, which is our 5. That goes to A, E, and C sharp, root position tonic triad, F sharp, A, F sharp, and D. Yeah, I think this is a first inversion 4 chord. D major over F sharp. Then we have C sharp, E, and E. So we have the makings of an A major chord, but we are missing the A. So we have a 3 chord here, another sort of deceptive progression where C sharp is being substituted for A major. C sharp has all the makings of A major except for it's missing the A. They both share C sharp and E in common, so that's what's deceptive about it. We then have D, B, F sharp, and D with a little non-chord tone 7th in the tenor and a passing tone in the melody. Sorry, I blanked on what that was called, which is a B minor triad in first inversion, 2-6, and we would expect that to go to 5, right? Because this is a half cadence, E, G sharp, and B, which is our 5 chord. All right, we're in the home stretch. We end on a perfect authentic cadence in the key of A. We have F sharp, A, F sharp, and D. It's a 4-6 chord, another deceptive progression, right? It's like 5 going to 6 in the bass, but instead of harmonizing an F sharp minor triad, we get D major. And then we have G sharp and B in the bass as well. Notice how we have a 4-6 chord that goes to 1 on the next beat, A, C sharp, E, and C sharp. But we have a passing 7 half diminished chord. Then we have a passing tone in the tenor. We have G sharp, E, and B. That is E major over G sharp, which is a 5-6 chord. Passing tones in the tenor and the alto. We then have E, B, G sharp, and E, so that's just another E major triad in root position, this time passing 7th in the bass. We have C sharp, A, and E, which is a first inversion tonic triad. Passing tone in the bass. Delayed passing tone or a suspension in the melody. And then we have A, E, and C sharp, which is a root position A major triad, passing tones in the upper and the outer voices, C sharp, A, E, and A. That is a first inversion A major chord. We have seen a lot of 1 here, just pretty much inverted every which way. Passing tone in the bass, passing tone in the melody, E, A, E, and C sharp. That is a second inversion tonic triad. Little anticipation going on in the alto. Then we get E, G sharp, D, and B. 5-7 chord, E7 in root position, anticipation in the alto, and then we cadence on our tonic A major. We'll use this bracket notation for those who are used to that in your textbook, or if that's just how you learned how to do it. All in all, super fascinating chorale. I think seeing a long string of perfect authentic cadences in the key of E major when the melody's pretty A major centric is always kind of challenging to hear, because if you isolate the melody, generally that's a good technique for being able to hear what key you're in, because the melody is where the harmony is derived from. But this is a clear indication of the fact that the melody can be interpreted in a number of ways. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm just going to check out the videos that I've made in the past. I'm fairly certain that we've looked at this melody before. In fact, I'm almost 100%. Ich dank dir. Yeah, we've looked at one before. It's actually the second video I made on the channel. back when I was still, back when I had my old mascot before she got all chewed up by my dog, who's keeping me company at my feet right now that you can't see. And when I was still cutting out of my old anthology. That seems like an eternity ago now because I've been making these videos daily. However, I think this is a much better and presentable format. But yeah, we've looked at this melody once before. It looks like the analysis is a very similar length. I remember this melody being kind of interesting as well because of this G natural, which kicks the chorale off with an interesting quirk that we don't see very often, which is mode mixture. We see mode mixture from time to time, but it's something we seldom see. So it's not unprecedented, but we see it a couple times here with this 2/2 diminished chord in the key of E major and this minor tonic. Most of the time, all of the harmony we see is more or less diatonic to the key that we're in. So that's good. It's good that we're seeing a little bit of mode mixture in the real world. But that being said, I'll leave you on that note. Thank you so much for watching the video and for continuing to support the channel. I really enjoy making these videos, and I hope you're enjoying them as well. Feel free to subscribe if you're interested as well. I make these videos every day. Pardon me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's analysis as well. I hope you take care.